A Planned Brotherhood is not affiliated or associated with Planned Parenthood. Planned Parenthood is a registered trademark of Planned Parenthood Federation of America, incorporated and trademarked and protected by a team full of lawyers that will sue your ass if you cross their paths. That ain't this.
It must have been, it must have been, it must have been a happy time, time. It must have been, it must have been, it must have been a happy time, time. The sun would shine, the candy bars, Kool-Aid flowing like wine, the comic books, the TV shows, the bubble gum, the kitty cat.
TNT. Somebody was blasting that when I was walking to the store just now. In their little Subaru station wagon. And then, this feels like a question I've asked you before. How is the hobo situation in Yakima? Is it the same 3 or 4 that you see over and over again?
At least, like, outside of where I work. Because there's that big parking lot that basically is like, there's my work, there's the Sports Center bar, Speakeasy bar, and the movie theater that all share a parking lot, and Capitol Theater whenever something's going on there. So, like, it's a pretty big parking lot, and the hobos really hit it up. There's this one lady who used to live next door to me in an apartment building, who is, like, so aggressive, and she'll go up and she'll, like, be banging on car windows and be like, I know you've got something, this is a nice car, and stuff like that.
That's the approach you want to take.
Yeah, she gets the cops called on her all the time. And then there's one guy that always walks around with a gas can, and it's just always the gas can. It's always the same story about I need gas and everything like that. And this one girl from work, she called him out on it. She was like, I know it's not really for gas. You always have the gas can. And he said, like, fuck you, whore to her, or something like that. That was a great story, circulating word.
He earns $1 from me if you ever point him out. When I was walking across the street to the store, there was this woman, and I couldn't tell if she was homeless or not. But she looks at me, sees the direction I'm headed, and asks, are you going to the store? And I said, I just nodded yes. And then she says, can you do me a favor? And I didn't reply, but I also didn't cross the street. I stuck around, and she's like, can you get me a Diet Pepsi? They won't let me back in there. And she seemed pretty drunk, so I assume that's why. And then I said, oh, no, I don't have any money for that, sorry. And she says, well, I have $1. And then I stood there, and she never made an action to reach for $1. And she's like, never mind. And then so that was it.
Well, remember when we were at the bar the other night, and that lady comes up. I think she was propositioning to be a whore or something.
Wait, when I was there?
Yeah, remember we were standing out there talking to Heather. Maybe you were inside paying your bill.
Okay.
But this lady comes up, and she's like, hey, my car ran out of gas in this town, and I just want to get
I
out
was
of
there.
here.
I was there.
She's like, do you know of anything I can do to get some money? And I asked her, well, what are your skills? Like, I don't fucking know what.
But then she bailed on the premise. She was like, oh, well, I think either me or Heather said, I'm sorry, I don't have any money. Well, I wasn't asking you for money.
Yeah.
I'm just asking if there's something I can do in this town for money. Yeah, clearly that's what she's up to.
At fucking like 11 o'clock at night downtown.
I can't remember. Fuckable?
No, she was a big lady. I mean, maybe get a blowjobbable from.
Yeah,
I mean,
big lady equals unfuckable.
And I think that's what she was almost hinting at. Like, I don't know, like, what do you do in that situation if you are that type of guy? Like, if you're a Nico with all the confidence in the world.
Or that guy we saw in Cops yesterday.
Yeah. But just be like, well, I mean, if you want to give me a hand job out in the alley, I'll give you $10 or something like that. I mean, I should have said it just as a joke, just to see what she said. And then if she said yes, I would have done it. As a joke.
2 stories, and I'm going to let you tell one. But real quick, the other hobo thing that you'll encounter in Seattle, and I'm curious if this has happened to you. Usually on a Friday or Saturday evening when people are always looking for parking and it's impossible if you're downtown.
Mm-hmm.
The hobos will lurk and they'll wait for somebody to leave a parking spot and then stand there and wait for the next person that needs that spot and then pretends to be helping them park,
right, like
motioning them
back
in, and then just standing out there, the most thuggish looking guys ever. And they're only the scary guys I ever see do it, and it's because you can't claim no, you didn't help me, because they're going to argue that, and they look like they can kick your ass.
Yeah, and it's almost like
I've never seen one of those guys not get $1 when the people eventually stepped out of the
car. I know
cars.
it's never happened to me, but I've seen it there. Like I've seen it from Margaret's window because she lives right in that street where like parking is a hot spot in Belltown.
That's where I usually see it.
Yeah, and they'll wave them in, and I always think like if they did it to me, like you'd almost expect them to be semi-threatening, like, oh, I can stand around and make sure no one breaks your windows, which basically means like I'll break your windows
If you
unless
don't give me a dollar,
right
yeah.
now. So yeah, I mean, I would probably give it to that guy.
Yeah, you'd have to.
Yeah,
They're putting you in a spot, and
yeah.
it's pretty ingenious, really. But it always makes me uncomfortable.
If
but I always see it through. Like when I was still smoking, I'd be out on the balcony, and I would just sit and see what happens.
Yeah.
And I've never seen somebody turn them down.
Yeah, I mean, if it was like actually helpful to where like from down the street, I was like, hey, go stand in that spot, and he was not letting other cars come in.
But that's not it.
That's worth a 5 spot for me. I mean, something like that.
You like to throw your money
happen.
around, though.
Yeah, I don't mind really. I'm in a cash income business, but
it means nothing to you.
The hobos, it just bothers me, like how they'll catch you right when you're packing a new pack of cigarettes,
right?
And be like, hey, you got a cigarette, like stuff like that, where they just fucking catch you, and it's like I don't.
Yeah, that's
have
a scheme
anything
too. Waiting outside
say.
the AM/PM because half their clientele is going in there to buy cigarettes.
Yeah, I mean, as a smoker who was broke a lot of the time and couldn't afford cigarettes, especially when I was living in Tacoma as a smoker. I mean, a lot of times with friends, I'll be like, hey, can I bum a cigarette? But there's maybe 2 times where I approached a stranger asking for a cigarette.
Too much pride.
Not
too much pride to dig through an ashtray for a half-smoked one, though.
I was turned down both times.
Really?
And
that's what I'm afraid of. That's why I can't do it.
Yeah, it's like heartbreaking. And it makes you feel so bad, like and I think about it for way too long afterwards. So I've never done that. I mean, maybe the furthest I'll go about asking a stranger for a cigarette is like if you're at a bar and you're in a smoking section and you're pretty drunk and you're talking to some guy you've never met before. You know what I hate? I hate the like, hey, I got a quarter here if you can sell me a cigarette.
Yeah.
I don't care if you're offering me $1, dude. Like, I don't want to be. I like to hang on to my cigarettes because I don't like the inconvenience of going to a store and buying one.
Right.
Like, I don't care how much if you're giving me $1 for a cigarette. Fucking, I would rather have my cigarette than $1. Like, I don't care about money that's why I spend money on cigarettes.
Right.
I don't want to just trade them for the same amount of money. I want my cigarettes.
I had a guy somewhat recently. 2 different stories, but same bus stop. And smoking at the bus stop is always a bad idea because you're stuck in that one location. If you're moving along and smoking at the same time, then you're just, nope, sorry, and then you cross the light even if it's red. The street. But one guy, a thuggish-looking gentleman, I'll say, and he had a friend with him who was equally thuggish, and he didn't even ask me. He tried to put 75 cents in my hand, and he's like, hey, dude, I need a cigarette. And I'm like, sorry, I don't have one. He's like, dude, I showed you the money. Give me a cigarette. And then his friend was like having to hold him back by the end of it.
Yeah.
Because I refused to give him a cigarette.
Well, I mean, good.
Yeah, I was afraid I was going to get shivved at any given moment, but
which isn't worth it, sure.
But then there's another guy that came up totally clean cut, and I have no problem with those guys. Like if it looks like they can, I really don't.
White guy.
That's not what I'm saying. But if they look like they can afford their own cigarettes and they're in a pinch. I've been there too. I've never asked, but it's because you got shot down twice, and I couldn't live with myself after that.
And just real quickly, like that's what bothers me, especially with downtown Yakima, where it's always the same people every time. It's like, why am I supporting your cigarette habit? I know for a fact that you smoke every day and that you never, ever, ever buy your cigarettes.
Right.
That's not fair. I don't expect anyone except myself to support my smoking habit.
Right.
Financially.
That was the case for me until I quit smoking. But I had a couple of weak moments, the last of which was the 4th of July. And I'm at a barbecue surrounded by smokers that have been friends of mine for years. So I don't feel as bad asking them for a cigarette.
Yeah, exactly.
In a time of need. But this guy, this clean-cut fellow walks by. He asks me for a cigarette, and I give him one. But he's already pulling out not just $1, which is an extreme amount to pay for a cigarette. He was trying to give me 2, and I was like, no, man, I always refuse money. I'm like, no, man, it's cool. And he's like, no, I insist that you take it. And he's looking me directly in the eyes. And I'm like, I'm really not going to take $2. Give me 1 if you're going to have to give me anything at all. And he's like, I know how expensive they are. Trust me. I will not take the cigarette unless you take this $2.
Yeah.
So I took the $2, and that was my bus fare.
And I felt that way before. Like I think I have told people, like, the stranger in a bar situation that like you have it, to me that's not the same as walking up to somebody on the street, but like I've walked up and used the line, hey, I will give you any amount of money for a cigarette.
See, that's aggressive
because
I don't like that approach,
and I want one so badly. Usually works out, but that's the same thing as like I don't like to take, like there's always people at my job, you work with 40 people and they're all trying to quit smoking at any given time, but anyone who's quit smoking basically means that they've quit buying cigarettes.
Right.
And now they're making the rounds asking everybody who smokes for a cigarette. And it's just like, I've got one guy that comes up to me basically every day with 50 cents. Hey, here's 50 cents for a cigarette. And he knows that, like, when I do give it to him, I turn it down. But it gets to the point to where you're just like, oh, man, go buy a fucking pack. Just stop it.
And I don't want to be that guy. I want to stress that my non-smoking is going well for the most part.
Yeah.
Aside from those few weak moments I mentioned, and that have been captured on film and put on Facebook. So there's no denying it.
I mean, weak moments are weak moments, but it's still like in a month. A month ago you said you were going to quit smoking. In that month, if you had 4 weak moments, that still means that you smoked 4 cigarettes in 1 month.
Right.
Instead of like almost a pack a day for a month, which is like
over a pack a day.
Yeah,
in my
like
case,
500 cigarettes in a month.
Yeah.
Is that right?
No.
Yeah.
No.
If you're smoking a pack a day, that's 20 a day times 30. That's 600.
Welcome to Math Corner. I don't care.
Yeah.
I was spending way too much.
I mean, so I would venture to say you were smoking very close to, if not more than 500 cigarettes a month.
All right.
And then you smoked 4, so
that's
fine.
pretty extreme. Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah, you're doing good. And
I'll live forever
especially
now.
after so many years of smoking that many cigarettes.
That's why I'm so proud of you, because, I mean, you were a smoker long before I jumped on board.
I mean, are you feeling any of the side effects, like wanting to eat more and stuff? I don't feel like my appetite was never very curbed by smoking. Although I guess that's not true, because there were times at work when, like, I would be so fucking hungry to eat, and then, like, I'd go outside and grab a cigarette right before my dinner break, and then I'm like, oh, I'm not that fucking hungry anymore.
See? I do find that I'm eating more.
But I would still stuff my face, like, just out of habit, just like cigarettes, even if I don't really feel like one. It's just like now's the time I usually smoke a cigarette. It's the same thing with food. Like now's the time I eat an obnoxiously large meal from McDonald's.
I am eating more, but I'm also walking more now that the weather's nice. But walking kind of sucks without smoking cigarettes.
Yeah, oh my God, that'd be
that's the worst
boring.
for me. Or like when I go to a movie and the movie's over and I go out into the sunshine again.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good time for a cigarette too.
Yeah.
I also like a cigarette after sex, but it's been a while.
Yeah, I enjoy that.
Yeah.
Also, smoking pot, like that just made me. I mean, everyone knows drinking makes you want to smoke cigarettes more, but smoking pot, like I feel like I'm going to die if I can't have a cigarette right after. I smoke
it's
a bowl.
rough.
Like, if I smoked pot the way I used to now, like I would not be successful in quitting smoking at all.
Well, congratulations to us, is what I'm telling our listeners to send us an email saying.
I feel like this is the longest I've ever stuck with it. Like, there was one time.
Definitely me.
When Alvina was like, I don't understand. One time you quit for a month and you got back on it. Like, how after a month? I'm like, well, to be honest with you, I didn't quit for a month. You didn't know I was smoking for that month.
Right.
But whatever. And I also like the like true blue sticking to not smoking, like the not having to sneak around and stuff. Because the biggest pain in the ass about smoking, especially with the baby, was like having to come in and wash my hands and stuff like that. So it's like, what am I going to do? I come home from sneaking a cigarette on the way home from work, and I'm like, oh, I got to take a big shit. So I go in the bathroom and turn on the fan so she can't hear the water running and just scrub and gargle and
Depending
all that
on the time of year, you just dip your hand in a mud puddle on the way home.
Yeah, that's true.
You still smell gross, but not like cigarettes.
Yeah. Just, use some fucking dog shit to moisturize. And
True story, by the way. That wasn't an exaggeration. When I was dating Pincushion, at the beginning of the year, we were dating over a New Year's, and I made a big deal about how I was going to quit smoking.
She didn't smoke at all?
No, she hated it. When you're in a relationship with a girl, occasionally you're going to kiss her, and she can tell. So I was always chewing gum. But when I didn't think to buy a thing of Purell. Mm-hmm. So instead, depending on the time of year, I actually would like dip my hands in mud puddles before I'd go and see her. So I smell like fucking Oscar the Grouch when I show up to make out with her.
Did she notice that you smelled like shit after that, or what?
Well, I kind of always smell like shit. There's a reason it only lasted 8 months. That one.
You know who the worst person to bum cigarettes off of is? Nick O. Like, Nick O does not mind making you feel guilty about money or anything like that. Like, there was one time when I was like, we were walking back from we had walked over to a buddy's house that lived near the bar we were at. So we walk over there to smoke a bowl, and we're coming back. And I was like, dude, I really need a pack of cigarettes. And my cash is like, I don't have any cash on me. I was like, can you give me like a $2 loan till tomorrow? And he seriously made like such a big deal about, oh yeah, well, but it really does have to be a loan because, I don't have very much money right now, blah, blah, blah. It's like, dude, I'll get your fucking $2 back. And trying to get a cigarette out of him is like fucking crazy. He'll always be like, I'm running pretty low, and he'll pull out his pack, and there's only like 15 in there. And he doesn't owe me anything, but I bummed him out cigarettes before.
Yeah. Hey, a long time ago, I said 2 stories, but we'll start with this one. I want you to tell the Nick O story yesterday when we were outside with him when he was smoking in your parking lot.
Well, I mean, there was a lot of Nick O stories yesterday. You were here. The baby was here. It was a nice day, and like
you know the one I'm talking about.
Yeah. Okay. And I got in my head that I didn't want that to be a day where we just sat around all day. You know,
right?
It's nice out. It's too hot, but whatever. It's nice out. So we did a lot of stuff that day, but it sort of culminated in coming home and playing Risk here at my house.
We were all virgins to the game before yesterday.
We were very excited to do it, though. We went out and bought it, and so we're outside so we can smoke a cigarette at one point, and we've all got our beers out there, and it's the apartment right across. Like when you open my front door, you're looking.
Oh, really? I had no idea.
Yeah, and there's like an old lady there's like a lady who lives there.
Keep it down.
And her daughter, and then so there's the daughter who's like 20 something, the mother, her grandmother, and an aunt who all live there. And
is their apartment? Can we assume this size?
1 square foot smaller than my apartment.
Wow, that's insane.
Yeah. And
do they all sleep in the same bed, Willy Wonka style?
I don't know what they do. And this is a girl who, like, I never really talked to at all. Like, I'm not good at making conversation, especially with semi-attractive girls who are my own age.
I didn't give her too much of a look because I was afraid she might be attractive.
Yeah.
And then I'd just goob out.
I mean, she really wasn't.
She's not unattractive.
Someone like Nico doesn't have a lot of standards. It's just that. It's like, oh, you're not ass ugly. I'm going to go after you.
So she pulls up with her mom in the parking lot while he's smoking, and we're standing there with our beers.
Yeah, and I've already decided that I'm just going to stand here awkwardly drinking a beer in the parking lot.
As I do with all of my neighbors.
Yeah, walk by me thinking I'm a piece of shit and everything like that. And she's wearing some weirdo outfit, like some 80s stretch dress or something like that.
Ironically.
And maybe. And it's just, Nico just starts immediately.
Well, you could see him sleazing out a little before she even steps out of the car. Like, you can see him, I hope her body's good when she steps out.
And he just has no shame when it comes to that. Like, he lays the sleaze on so much when he's hitting on a girl. And it's just like, oh, where you going so dressed up? And she says, oh, I was at school. What school do you go to? YVC, which is the community college that literally everybody in town goes to. And he's just like, YVC, huh? But then he starts making, like, real small talk. Like, maybe he is trying to be a gentleman, like, oh, what are you studying? Oh, you're in summer quarter. Oh, yeah, trying to get through school fast. I hear that.
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah.
I was on board at that point. Like, he's just being friendly.
And he waits until she's, like, walking away before he really fucking lays it off.
Well, he waits until her mom is completely out of the picture.
Yeah, and you know, this is my neighbor who I have to see every day, and it's like, well, like, oh, I'm gonna have to start going to YVC if they dress like you over there. And she's just like,
I don't think he commented on how she was dressed.
No, he was like, if that's how they're dressing at YVC now, I gotta get going over there, and just stuff like that. And she's just like, yeah, and like
clearly uncomfortable
out of her car so fast. And then, like, he's relishing in how uncomfortable she is and how uncomfortable I am.
Well, you don't even wait for her to leave, and you're like, really, Nico?
Yeah, I was like, just stop. And then that's when he does the thing where he'll just sit there and kind of giggle, like, just like the whole time. And it's like, what are you doing? It's not going to work. I mean, I know that there's a theory that if you hit on 100 girls like that, maybe one will work. But is that worth it?
I admire the confidence, but I was also really uncomfortable in the moment. I
don't admire that much confidence. I told you that. He's a very hands-on flirter. Like, I'm honestly surprised he didn't go up and grab her vagina and then just say, oh, it's as a joke. But, like, you know.
I want to see your YV, see?
There's my friend who, he was, like, rubbing his wife's leg, and, like, my friend was about to knock
Keyword
him
here
out.
is wife.
Yeah. And then he'll just do the thing where it's like, oh, calm down. Like, it's like, I'm just doing it as a joke. Like, how can you possibly get mad at that? and then there was someone who he works with, whose girlfriend, I was sitting right there, and he, like, rubs her back when she's leaving, which is just so, like, how do you do that? And then his friend, the boyfriend, as a joke said, you know, like, oh, don't ever touch my girlfriend like that. Like, just one off, like, kind of joking.
Sure.
And Nick's like, okay, and grabs her tit and kisses her on the face. Like, and that's
was he
thing.
drunk? Not that that's an excuse.
I mean, we were sitting at the bar, so I mean, he might have been towards drunk, but like you say, no, not that that is an excuse, and lost a friendship over that joke, over that goof that was just a goof, and sort of lost his job over it because he made a Facebook post talking shit about his job, and that guy turned him into it.
It all comes around, guy. You got to watch where you put your hands.
And he lost his job. Yeah,
out of the cookie jar, Nika. That's all I'm saying. Is he a listener still?
Who knows?
Future guest. We'll confront him head to head.
He still goes to that bar he was just fired from a lot, though. Like, that's weird to me. But
yeah.
Whatever. I used to hang out at Outback a lot after I quit working there, but I quit there. I quit on bad terms. Like,
right.
I walked out in the middle of a shift. But I would still go and hang out there. But that's also because, like, all my friends worked there.
Right.
And would hang out there every night after work.
Yeah, I've never gone back. In fact, when I got fired from my most
I've never been fired. I put that out there.
Okay. Well, I have.
Yeah.
The first time I got fired, the one that ended in handcuffs, I was actually trespassed from that place, so there was no risk of me coming in there.
That's not the first time you were fired.
Yes, it was. The other time I was laid off.
First of all, you got fired from DSL here in town, working for the
laid off.
DSI, working for the Jehovah's Witnesses. You got fired when you worked at the nursing home that Mom worked at.
That's true.
Doing laundry there.
But I didn't have, my grandma wasn't staying there. I had no reason to ever go there again. And I should explain, the only reason I got fired from there is because I had another job that I liked better.
Yeah. And so what? You'd call in sick a lot.
Yeah. And they caught me. It was a sting operation. They went down to my other job and caught me working there.
Good for them. Like, who's gonna?
I was relieved.
Yeah. Who's gonna take their fucking?
The only reason I
laundry
didn't quit is because
job?
Mom hooked me up with that job, and I was currently living with her, and I would have felt bad about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, my most recent firing, like, I didn't want to go back. I just left, like, in a quiet hush because I didn't want to be embarrassed by surrounded by my coworkers who maybe didn't know what was happening yet, although I'm sure most of them did.
You were in handcuffs.
No. I'm talking about my most recent job.
Oh, okay.
So I left all of my stuff there, like, and I had an office job, so I had tons of stuff in there.
But
I had
knew, though. They knew because where I work, at the restaurant I work, like, we know somebody's going to get fired before that person even comes in for their shift that day. So, like, when that person
80%
comes in,
of them knew. The CSRs probably didn't know.
When like I remember this guy Brian getting fired, and like we all know, and he comes in like strutting and whistling, and ready to
so
punch
humiliating.
in, and we're all just staring at him like, oh, he has no idea.
See, we've talked about this before, though. Like, you want to be
Yeah, I've got to deal with friends of mine who work there. Like, since you will know that I'm about to get fired before I ever show up for
let's
my
make a
shift
secret pact that you give me
a
head
call.
nod. Something.
Give me a call first so that I don't even come in. Or, yeah, if I do walk in, don't let me walk back to the clock-in area.
With a big shit-eating grin on your face.
I mean, it happened to me not that long ago to where, like, I got into it with a manager or something one night, and then the next day I came in and I was scheduled to work, but my name wasn't on that. We call it a who's who. It tells you what station you work at and stuff that day. And I'm always in the same station, so I don't really need to look at it, but I'm still always on there. And I wasn't on there, and Ed's name was on there in place of mine. And I'm like, oh, my God. And the first thing I do is go up to this guy, Bobby, and like, have you heard anything, man? Am I fired? And he's like, no, but what are you doing here? You don't work today. You're not on the who's who. And I was like, holy shit. So before I would even go near the kitchen where, like, the manager's office is, like, I was just asking, have you heard anything? Am I getting fired? And everyone said no, and I believed them. So then I just walked up to, like, the manager who I get along with most, and I asked her. I was like, hey, am I fired? And she's like, no, what are you talking about? It was just, all a big misunderstanding. But it's terrifying to me. A lot of people are like, oh, I'm glad I got fired from there.
Nobody's glad they got fired from anywhere.
Yeah, because, and the thing is, like, I might have problems with my job and the politics and the corporateness of my job and stuff like that, but I make money there, and I have a family who spends that money, and I have rent to pay and shit like that, and I'm not interested in going 3 weeks to a month without making any money, especially, like, I'm a bartender, so I get cash every night.
Right.
That would be a hard fucking hit to go even 1 week, to go one night without that. And, wow, nothing I hate more than applying and interviewing and training at new jobs.
I'm dreading it. Why do you think I've been unemployed for 14 months?
Yeah, I mean, I really want to stick this job out until I move on to, for ever since I started working, I'm basically going, if I'm going from job to job, it's the same basic job. It's the minimum wage plus tips.
But it's still the getting comfortable with your new surroundings, coworkers.
Yeah, and then you've got to go through the training and learn the rules and learn the menu and stuff like that. Like the next job I go to, I want it to be a step up.
Right.
And that not a lateral step, a step up.
Any new job that I get, I must seem like the most boring, sheepish, ridiculous asshole ever.
I don't talk.
I don't make jokes. Once I get comfortable, I'm a fucking star of the show.
Yeah.
But that usually takes me about 2-3 months, depending on the job, before I'll even open up in the break room, you know?
The only good thing about when I started this particular job is because when you work at a restaurant and you're going to be a waiter.
In Yakima? Does that help?
Nah, I mean, yes and no, because ultimately someone works there who you know.
That's what I mean.
Especially in the restaurant industry.
At least you've got that.
Whether or not you like them, that's good. But when I started at this restaurant, there's probably 4 or 5 people there who I've worked with in the past. Semi to good friends and whatever. But so I got the job from a friend of mine that was working there as a busser, and I got hired as a waiter. And when I go in, when you start at a restaurant, you have to do like a classroom is what they call it, which is like every day or like 3 days a week for like 2 weeks. You come in, you study the menu, you take tests on the menu, you role play about waiting tables and suggesting the new entrees and shit like that. Like, it's terrible.
The role playing,
it's the worst part. But in this particular training class that I got into is right when my friend who was the busser who got me the job, one of my really good friends, Sean, was being promoted to waiter. So we were in the same little class with one other chick who we both knew her cousin, so we kind of knew her through her.
I'd say you left out there.
And one old lady who's like fucking terrible, and we could rag on her the entire time.
Right.
But still, it was very... anytime,
you gotta have a punching bag.
Yeah, but it was very uncomfortable, and I hate it because you don't talk, especially in a restaurant when you're following people, you were just so in the way.
Right.
You were so fucking in the way. Everyone's bumping into you.
You got a question. You're terrified to ask it.
Yeah.
You don't want to come off like the idiot.
And I mean, he's working at a new restaurant in town now, and occasionally he'll be like, "Hey, why don't you come work over here? Like, it's way better." I don't want to have an interview, and I don't want to get hired, and I don't want to go through training. Like, I know how to do this job. Yes, there's more money to be made elsewhere, but I know how to live off of the money I make at this job, and 4 more years, and then hopefully I'll have like a college degree and I can go get a real job somewhere.
But
like
won't that be scary?
That upward move. Yeah, I mean, that will be scary too, but at least it'll be more worth it.
This speaks, I think this speaks so well to our insecurities. I know there's those jackholes out there, maybe even a few of you are listening, that get a new job and are excited. Oh, it's an adventure. I get to meet new people.
I hate when people come in and they're so fucking bubbly. And it's like their first week, and they're like, "How you doing today, PJ?" and shit like that. Like,
I don't like it because it makes me feel like, are they trying to take my position? I'm the funny guy here.
I'm rude to them. Like, I'm just like rude. I'm like, you are way too new to be talking to me like that. And I hate to sound
talking
like
to me at all.
Like that kid who was picked on as a freshman, and then as soon as he's a sophomore, picking on all the freshmen. But like, I just don't want to be talked to, and it makes.
And you are a puny little 8th grader.
Yeah, and
6th grader.
And it just makes me jealous that they can come in and like instantly have 5 times as many friends in that restaurant as I do currently.
Ugh.
Because I have no friends in that restaurant. I can count them on one hand, and probably can't count any of them as actual friends.
Everything about this episode so far has made me say ugh.
I know.
How do you spell that?
It's depressing. Speaking of saying ugh, you want to talk about croquet yesterday?
Yeah, we have to now. All right. Well, Nico's bright idea, and I was having a great time.
First of all, it was my bright idea.
Oh,
I
was
texted him.
Well, he had the croquet set though. And I know the last couple times I've been here, you know, and I'm Nico's Facebook friend, so he'll be like, Performance Park, 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Come one, come all. I'm like a leaf.
Yeah, see, the thing is, I text him like, hey, me and my brother are here. Do you want to go play croquet? I'm thinking 3 of us. And then within 5 minutes, you're on Facebook, and he's like, said, oh, I invited 63 people to come play. Let's see who shows up. Fuck that, dude. Like, I don't like his neighbor who always shows up. And just all these other people, and like it's just so.
Let's just make it a fun little intimate, just the 3 of us,
but
and your daughter running around like a tard.
Yeah, but see, that's also kind of the thing is you never know how other people are going to react to like the 2-year-old running in the middle of your shot,
right.
And you have to wait a couple minutes. Like I know we're all cool with that, But you never know with
And
new people.
We've been giving Nico a lot of shit, but yesterday when we were playing, he took a lot of time to keep her entertained.
He took
because she would
Sophie
get
duty
restless
big time.
because we made the mistake of going out there for what turned out to be a couple of hours and forgot to bring her like bubbles or toys of any kind to play
Yeah,
with.
we didn't bring her any toys. Plus,
But it's a huge grass area.
yeah, but it's not closed off, so you do every time she gets to like the edge of the sidewalk.
Yeah,
or
we were
something
taking
like
shifts
that.
on keeping an eye on
Yeah,
her.
you know, if there was a fence, fucking forget about it. You can let her run all around, and you know, there's cars, and she knows not to go in the street. But if she gets distracted by a butterfly, who knows what she's gonna do? So yeah, Nico was like definitely for the most part on Sophie. Not that you and I were ignoring her. It's just that you and I didn't really have to do anything because he was doing it
Right.
all. But yeah, so we go out there, and thankfully everyone's sick of Nico apparently because no one else shows up.
I can only assume that's the case, right?
And it is just us.
And we're into it so much so I thought we were going to play one round because the old timers that would walk by and think we were so clever for playing croquet as 20-somethings or whatever.
Late 20-something.
30 in my case. But yeah, everybody's all impressed by the novelty of us playing croquet.
Yeah, way to use the park, guys, because
Yeah.
they built this park for performances.
Well, I've never played
there's never
croquet
been one.
as an adult, but I feel like it is a pretty extreme course. There was a lot of little dips and divots and
rocks that you have to go around, like big stones.
but
to
that
sit
made it
on.
fun.
Yeah.
And so even though I was clearly the worst of the three of us, I was having a lot of fun. So once we
Well,
finished
I mean, let's go through the scores.
Why
game one,
why would we do that?
Nico first place, me second, you third.
Right?
Game 2, I was first place, Nico second, you third.
Yeah, but you could tell I was coming back.
Game 3, Nico was first, I was second, you were third.
Now let's talk about game 4.
And when game 4, when we stopped, I was right on Nico's tail, and you were right on my tail.
Exactly. Too close on your tail, as it turns out.
We're doing the thing. I think there.
Croquet, anybody?
We had already.
Do we have to go through the rules first?
We had already learned that like there was a couple close calls where like I almost whacked Nico or something like that. So I line up. You just hit your ball directly behind me. I have no idea where you're standing behind me. So I take this big whack and I hit the ball, and I mean it was a good shot. It really went out there.
I can tell you how good it was in a second.
Got to like 3 feet behind Nico's, but as it comes back over my shoulders, you know, it's like golf. Like you listen for the sound when it hits the ball, and like that just sounded like a good shot.
Right. You
So
know,
it was
you know
like-
when it's connected.
Perfect connect right in the middle of the mallet, and then about half a second later, I hear the exact same sound again.
The thump, right?
Yeah,
The
just
thwack.
It's a thwack. That's what it is. And then I'm like, fuck, I just hit Nick. I just fucking nailed Nick. Now, and at first, because these mallets are so cheap, which thank God for that, I was like, it's probably not that big a deal. I mean,
Right.
you hit the ground, you have your
okay.
head.
Let me tell it from my perspective at this point. I didn't realize how close I was, obviously. But, yeah, the backswing nails me straight at the top of my
It was
forehead.
the follow through.
The follow-through. And I don't even have time to think before I'm on the ground. And it was the hugest ring running through my head that I've ever experienced.
Yeah.
Like, it's been a long time since I've
You know
been...
what's funny too is because I was like, "Oh man, that sound it made," and you're like, "I know. Did you hear that ringing?" And I was like, "No, I didn't hear that ringing."
I guess
in
that
your
was just
head.
me. Yeah, sure. So anyway, like I have no choice but to fall. Did I fall on my back? How did it happen?
You
Or was
were-
I just writhing?
Sort of writhing. Started fetal position, kind of, and then it was just sort of rolling back and forth.
But what I'm saying is you knocked me to the floor. It's not like, oh, this hurts, I have to sit down.
No.
I was out.
Yeah.
But not passed out, surprisingly. I've never passed out before, but if I was going to ever, it would have been yesterday, I feel like. So I hit the ground, like my head's just throbbing, but I think, wow, this is going to be one huge bump. That's what I'm
thinking too. Like, there's going to be a big knot on the head. I hope we can finish this game because I just made a really good shot.
And so you're like, dude, I'm so sorry. And I asked,
From my perspective, when something like that, like when we're kids, like that's a whole different thing.
because
Like,
dad's coming out with his switch.
or you're running in to tell on me to dad or something like that, and nothing like that has happened since we were that age.
No.
So I just don't know what to do. I am just like I can apologize 20 times. I don't know if that's going to help, but that's what I'm gonna like. For some reason, my main goal was to convince you that it was an accident. Like you weren't gonna believe me.
I believed you. I was there. But anyway, so you're leaning over, and when we talked about it later, I thought that I sounded a little like this. Because that's what was going on in my
Like
head.
Philip Seymour Hoffman when he gets hit in the head with that statue in Talented Mr. Ripley.
Yeah, do that noise. But you said, what did I do? I was just saying, ow.
Yeah,
ow,
it was like,
ow.
ow. Ow. And I think I literally asked you, did I get you? And you were like, yeah. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. And like, while you're still on the ground writhing in pain, you're like, no, dude, it was my fault. I was standing too close to you.
And then this is the
and
worst.
then I look over at Nick O, and he's like dancing with Sophie. And
Well,
I'm like, he hasn't even noticed.
He
yet.
said he didn't see anything.
Yeah.
He was kicking our ass, so he was way across the park. But then this is the worst part for a guy like me who's so squeamish, is I pull my hand away, just like, okay, let's feel the welt, let's see how big, and there's blood.
Yeah.
And
A little bit at first.
A little bit at first.
Yeah.
See, I'm interested to know your perspective, because I just saw the blood on my hand when I pulled it away.
You took away your hand and you looked at it, and I was like, oh, there's no blood. And then you put it back and brought it down, and now there was. And it was probably like, filling up half of your palm. And you're like, yeah, there's blood. And then you put your hand to it again, and you bring it down, and now it's running all the way down your forearm. And I'm like, yeah, dude, that's a fucking head injury. It's bleeding.
Right. And so 2nd Street, this bar that Nick...
But like, the thing is, like, it was so high up on your hairline that you could... The only way I could tell it was bleeding was from what was coming onto your arm.
Oh, really? So it wasn't running down my face at that point?
Well, I mean, it was, but you kept putting your hand there and back. I'm just saying that, like, if it was in the middle of your forehead, I would have been able to see the gash right away. But it was so confusing because it was like high up and in your hair.
You thought I had some ketchup packets. I was playing a bit.
The whole thing was a bit. Like, for all I knew, you were behind me and you clanked 2 balls together to make me feel bad and give you an extra shot.
So I'm freaking out, like, just because I don't deal well with blood, especially my own.
And while it was going on, like, I didn't realize so much later. Oh yeah, he is so grossed out by blood.
Yeah. So like I'm kind of panicked, and you're like. So you guys come up with the plan. Nico runs over by this point.
Yeah.
He's like, dude. And so you're like, just run across the park. There's 2nd Street, this bar, and then going through the back, you can go right into the bathroom, clean yourself up. And I felt like I couldn't do that on my own, just in case I did like collapse or pass out.
Yeah.
Because the blood, I could feel it running down my face at this point, and I was like, dude. Oh, I'm sorry.
And it's scary too. Like, it's like I just got hit in the head, and like
I don't know how bad it is.
We talked later, like, thank God it wasn't in the nose.
Oh, or the
break
teeth.
out your teeth.
And it was close enough. Like you said, it's far up on the forehead, but it was still a square hit to the head.
But at this point, I'm sure we're all wondering, like, what do we need to do? Do we need to go to the hospital?
Right.
Is he going to pass out? And it's so hot outside.
That's why I didn't want to go alone. And you have Sophie to deal with, and we have the fucking mallets and wickets everywhere.
That kind of pissed me off a little because you said, can someone come with me? And I was like, yeah. And then Nico goes, yeah, I'll go. Hey, PJ, can you pick up the course? And I'm like, fuck you, dude.
First of all, I didn't want
to see the good shit.
I didn't want to see you in that moment. For that first 5 minutes, I would have punched you. No, with my bloody fist. So we run across the street, and then former and future guest of the show, Gabe, he's sitting outside because he works there, and he's on a break, so he's outside the back door where we're about to walk into, smoking a cigarette or just about to smoke a cigarette out on the bench. And he sees me and Nico coming from across, and he yells out, "What's going on, guys?" And then I get closer, and he goes, "What's going on?" And then Nico says, "Oh, PJ hit him with a croquet mallet," and Gabe, his first response immediately is, "On purpose?" And he's like, no. And so Gabe, I know Gabe gets a lot of shit for being a little boisterous on the show, but thank God Gabe was there. Apparently a trained EMT. Is that correct?
Yep.
So he, he put down a cigarette, and he's like...
He teaches the CPR classes that they give at 2nd Street.
He did try mouth-to-mouth once we got there. No, but so he was really cool. He's like, come on, man, come on. So he takes me into the bathroom, and immediately he's running out and getting a first aid kit and telling me it's not that bad, it's not that bad. But then this is the first time I've seen my reflection since it all happened. And not only is blood running all the way down my arm, I've got it all over my shorts. But, and you didn't see this part, and this is why this won't be a picture, because you didn't get there until after this had been cleaned up. But I thought my eye or my eyebrow had been cut too, because I had 2 wicked streams of blood running down from my right eye. I looked like that James Bond villain.
Yeah, which we decided because it got like mixed in with your sweat, and that's where it was dripping down.
Yeah, because it was fucking 100 degrees outside yesterday, by the way.
When I packed up all the croquet shit. While I'm putting the mallets in the bag, I whacked Sophie in the head with one, which was so bad. I mean, it was just a little thing, but it was enough to send her into hysterics.
Right. So then when
she was already pretty cranky.
Yeah. So then, by the time you get there and they're working to clean me up, I got to deal with Sophie screaming her head off because she has not even a bump on her head. Don't you see what's going on with your uncle there, buddy?
Yeah, I walk into the bathroom, and what I see is Nico rushing in with 2 glasses of water.
Oh, because I asked him for it. I felt like I needed liquid at that point.
You were completely white. You must have just seen your reflection and been freaked out or something like that because you had no color in your face except for blood red.
Right. And right at that moment, like, I was getting dizzy, like, because I was pacing, as I tend to do in stressful situations, and then I realized I'm about to fucking collapse. I need to sit down.
That's what you said. You said, I think I'm going to pass out, and that's right when Nick showed up with water. But then you see Gabe with the gloves on.
Oh, man, he was on top of that shit.
And all the together, and, like, the really good bedside manner. He's talking to you like you're a 5-year-old, like, oh, man, it's cool. You're going to have a Harry Potter scar. Like, that's exactly what you would say to a 4-year-old who just got hit in the head with a croquet.
Yeah, and I was trying to keep it light, too, while almost passing out. I was like, I told Nico, like, even before Gabe came back with the gloves and the first aid kit, I was like, I think he did it because he knew I was catching up with him. I was, I was right on the verge. But yeah, so that's basically the story, I guess. It was,
well, I mean,
there'll be a picture for those that aren't my Facebook friend.
Yeah, we have a picture.
We'll put a NSFW tag on our show notes because it's pretty gross.
By the way, join our Facebook fan page if you want to see that because Nick puts photo albums up for 70% of the episodes.
No,
lately.
Always 100%. Just sometimes it takes me a couple of weeks.
But I mean, Nico was texting a lot of people, and I texted Alvina. Well, first thing I said, and unfortunately a lot of it was cleaned up, was let me get a picture of this.
I still had the blood running down the arm. We'll post that one, too.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I didn't have my wicked blood.
You collapsed against the wall in the bathroom. And I'm texting Alvina like, oh, my God, I just fucking nailed Nick in the head so hard. And she said, why?
And it's funny. Everybody.
Everyone who
We've told the story a million
times
times before today, and everybody's like, on purpose? Why did he do it?
Yeah, Nico's texting people who have never even met you just to be like, bet you wish you were there now. And that's what everyone said. Like, was it on purpose? And
how does that speak to our relationship? I feel like we always get along in front of these people that did ask that even.
Yeah, I mean...
Kelly, my friend Kelly, she asked why.
I guess you can figure that it was like, if you're standing there with croquet mallets, they probably assume we're drunk and or high.
Which we were neither at that point.
And, I mean, we could get into a fight. It's pretty far-fetched that I would hit you in the head with a croquet mallet while you were here visiting me at my house. Like,
in front of your daughter. Yeah. Showing her that anger streak.
Yeah. But, I mean, I felt terrible. I feel like if it happened to me, I would have manned up and finished the game. But
Shut the fuck up.
No, I mean...
You were apologizing too much by the end of yesterday.
The only thing I could think was, what if it was what if I hit him in the mouth? What if it was the nose?
And that's what I keep thinking too. Like it would have been.
You said your eye. Like you hear all the time.
Because it was a full connect.
Break your eye socket and make you go blind.
Yeah.
Like anywhere. And I mean.
And it's high enough up on my hairline that
it wasn't your temple. And even if I'm going to hit you in the head, it wasn't like the middle of your forehead or right above your eye, to where there's going to be this nasty scar, which I wouldn't mind, but that's not everybody. I can understand why you wouldn't want a visible scar.
And I'm so squeamish that, like, you guys were describing it to me and, like, cleaning it out and putting the Band-Aids on for me. Because I decided, because I'm squeamish, I'm not going to get stitches. Yeah. Even though I could probably use them now I've seen the picture.
I mean...
It's a full-out gouge in my head.
You don't need them, but they would definitely they wouldn't turn you away without...
So even if it scars really badly, at least it's far enough up. Although your wife put the fear in my head yesterday. What if your hair never grows back there?
No, come on. It's like barely
you better
in
hope
the
not,
hairline,
pal.
and the hair is still there. It's not like it fell out. Like Jude Law in The Talented Mr. Ripley when he hits him with the oar. A lot of head injuries in that. Disgusting ones in that movie. But I mean, it's high enough up to where you can be like, hey, look at this, and pull back your hair if you choose to show the scar.
Right.
But you still haven't looked at it in the mirror. Like, you were so squeamish about it. Like, that would have been the first thing I did is I want to see my face covered in blood.
Well, you made it sound so dainty. I thought I could handle even the picture. Because when you guys, when Alvina was replacing the Band-Aid last night, It's the first time she'd seen it. And first of all, she didn't react in horror, so that made me feel good. And you described it as...
She reacted like a whore. Can you say that, though?
I will agree with
Let's
that.
be honest.
But when you were... I was like, what is... Because Gabe had already described it as a lightning Harry Potter scar.
Uh-huh.
But you said it's more like a V, like the birds you draw in elementary school.
Yeah, like a line V line.
So I imagine that, but as a line, and then you showed me the picture after you took it, because Nick O wanted to
Which, by the way, is the only way that you've seen it so far.
Yes.
And it was like hours and hours and hours after a game of Risk that went bad.
We'll talk about why that went bad,
there was another head injury. That's the only way you've looked at it was like, okay, I'll take a look at the picture because Nico's putting it on Facebook now.
Well, he had to get my approval before I'd allow him to put it on Facebook.
Yeah.
If there's a fucking baby coming out of it or some shit, I don't know. But then I look at it and I got a little queasy for a second because I was expecting just kind of like a line, whereas it's a piece of skin that's no longer there.
Yeah.
I told you last night, at least based on this picture, maybe it was the angle, I feel like if I took this Band-Aid off right now, I could poke through the hole and touch my own brain. Is that not accurate?
No, I mean, it's not that deep. Like, imagine like a piece of...
Don't make me throw up.
Like a thick piece of bologna.
Oh.
And you run your
I'm
fingernail...
the opposite of throwing up right now.
You run your fingernail across the middle and just kind of a layer of it comes off.
Okay.
So there's like a dent in there. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
Like there's like a little canyon in there. That's it. I mean, it's not super deep, but there is definitely... I mean, it's split. Split your head open. I mean, and it's not the first time you split your head open.
No, but
At
the
least
first
I didn't
time
trip you into a nail.
since double digits.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and I felt really bad, and I would have been willing to pay for stitches and everything like that.
I don't want stitches. If I can avoid it, I don't want it. I don't like that will hurt more than the thwack to the head.
You don't need them, and it's not like it's in this place where like you can still get a modeling job. You know what I mean? Like,
well, I don't think that's the case, but it wasn't before the scar either.
This scar isn't going to ruin your career or anything like that. Like, it's not going to make people turn their heads at you. I mean, but
do you think it'll be a scar for life? It's got to be, right?
Yeah, I mean,
but it's high enough up. That's a cool story now.
I mean, I've got see this scar on my arm here? Like, that's a pretty good looking scar.
Right.
And when that happened, it didn't look near as bad as
okay,
that.
let's tell scar stories. How did you get that one?
You
should explain where it is.
It's just right above my elbow. Like every other scar except for these 2 cigarette burn scars, which make me awesome, they're all skateboarding.
Oh, really?
Yeah, this is skateboarding. Actually, these right here was when this one right here you see on my hand.
I've got one in the same spot, but my story I'll bet is lamer than yours.
Well, one of them's kind of lame. This one is from when the neighborhood bully Dennis literally ran me over with his bicycle. This one is I burned it making pancakes at our cousin Tim's house.
Okay, that one's about equivalent.
They're
to
almost
my
identical and right next to each other.
This one here I got babysitting as a 12-year-old, which is not something anybody should trust me with. But it was our cousin Ashley, episode 50, when she was a toddler, of course. And Grandma, I couldn't find
asshole.
I couldn't find the can. I couldn't work a manual can opener, and her electric one wasn't working. And so I decided I only got it part of the way open with the manual. I'm going to take the hugest knife she has and pry this sucker open. Mm-hmm. And so I stick myself in my right hand, right under my index finger's knuckle. And it bled so bad. And I thought maybe I had just exaggerated the story, but this scar still exists to this day. And I have a bet, I won't show it because it's kind of in the inner thigh region. But I have a bubbled over scar that's pretty long. Did you ever know about that one? And I think that one was a bike accident I had as a kid.
Yeah,
or a dad accident, meaning he brought out the switch again.
That same scar where Dennis ran me over with the bike. I've got a little one underneath it's so small, one of my eyes, which is he ran me over and my whole face was scabbed over and stuff like that. I got such bad road rash from it.
If I avoid showing you the ball sack, can I show you this one real quick? It's just right here.
Yeah.
I can't believe you've never seen it because it's pretty wicked, dude.
And you think it was from oh my God.
Right?
I have never, that looks like a huge varicose vein.
Yeah, I don't know because it's all bubbled over now.
I wish I was.
Sorry, I'm not talking to Mike, but.
I wish I was secure enough in my sexuality to touch that, but.
It's just.
You've had that since you were a kid?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Trust me, that takes some explaining to girlfriends.
Oh my God, that is...
I can't believe you've never seen that.
That is something else.
Not even at our Speedo party? Our annual Speedo party?
And then the last one I'll mention is I've got one which
We're really showing more of our body to each other than ever before.
you can really only see it when I have a tan, but there's like a little white scar somewhere
Right there on your
around
chest,
here,
sure, yeah.
That was when you and Kelly, worst moderator on earth, came to Yakima, and we were like jumping off the docks in the Yakima River.
Oh, sure, I remember that.
I pulled myself up over the dock and I dragged it across.
I
this
remember that
bolt
kind
was
of.
sticking
I think
out.
I had to go sit in the car after that.
No, it didn't hurt that bad, and it wasn't really bleeding. There was like a little scab already the next day, and then just every time the scab came, I would pick it off. I like scars, I really do. That's why I put 2 cigarettes out on each of my arms so I could have awesome cigarette
Didn't
burns.
Nick go attempt? No, or was it the other way around? Yesterday, I guess
No,
to make
he
me
burned
feel
me with a cigarette.
to make me feel less bad about my injury, you guys started hurting each other at every opportunity. Tell the one, you know the one.
Well, I mean, I had decided he didn't notice, but there, we were playing Risk, and we had a chair set up to roll the dice on, so that
We weren't working on a flat surface really, so we
No.
pulled up a chair to roll dice on.
So when he was in the kitchen, I positioned the chair so that he would sit in it, and I could kick it over as he was going down, and he'd fall on the ground. Now, a little wrinkle in the plan came when right before he sat down, he picked up Sophie and was going to sit down with her, and I had to gauge in my head so fast. Is it worth it? Is it worth it? Yes, it's worth it, and I kick it out from under him. Yeah.
But you don't mean, is it worth my daughter's head injury? You knew that Nico would take initiative and keep her from harm.
I'm knowing that she's not going to get hurt, because when you're holding a kid, you're instinctively and falling. You're going to hold the kid above you.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's cool.
And the fall's not that far.
Yeah.
But you did. He had quite the scrape and bruise by the
He
time it was all...
dragged his arm all the way down like
Well,
the
that's
leg
his
of
fault.
the
Have
chair.
quicker instincts, guy.
And yeah, that's good. But I mean, me and Nico kind of get like that. He was also kind of annoying me during that Risk game, like
Oh, me too.
talking about how long it was taking,
Which we all knew. Like that's
It's
kind of the
Risk.
novelty factor
That's
of
what
the game.
everyone says about Risk, and I'm like, well, this is a night when none of us have to go to work. Let's play Risk. But yeah, I'm convinced we're playing it wrong. This is taking way too long.
Which is fine to say once or twice. Like I thought that even at the beginning before I started to get the hang of it. But every time it was his turn and he didn't take over a territory or a land, he'd be like, "We're doing it wrong," or "This is taking too fucking long."
Yeah, it was getting annoying.
5 hours of that.
I was telling
before
you
we
outside,
quit.
like, there's someone that like we used to play poker with, and he would just complain the whole time about how boring it was, but he wouldn't fucking leave. Like that kind of shit just gets on my nerves. Like, why ruin it for everybody?
Right. And it's not like we're all drinking beer, sitting around.
Yeah,
the TV's on. We're still having
We're
fun.
eating pizza, watching TV, talking. I mean, granted, he was texting the entire time. I don't know who he was texting. But every
Risk
time
is boring.
Yeah, and then that was the whole thing. Was I'm surprised there wasn't a million Facebook comments about
There was a couple.
Risk.
Well, there was one, but he just said that he was learning to play it or something.
Oh, yeah, we should fire him from our Risk circle, definitely.
I should fire him from Facebook.
Fucking punch him in his Facebook comments.
Did you say you're gonna punch him in his Facebook?
And he's so like, every text message he sends me has a smiley face at the end of it, and it's the same with every one of his Facebook comments. And it's really starting to get on my nerves.
Well, that's guy to guy. That's not the way to go.
I know. It's like, dude,
I've never sent a smiley face, but I've
not
never
some
sent an LOL either. I know I'm up the
16-year-old in
elite.
Alabama that you're trying to flirt with. Like, fucking lay off the emoticons.
I'm not PJ's fucking neighbor here.
Yeah, it's so gross when he hit on my neighbor.
It was so funny.
My neighbor gets around though, dude. I don't know how many of them she fucks, but she's always with a different guy.
Oh, I don't doubt it.
There's always someone different picking her up.
The stretch pants. Oh my god.
There's someone picking her up. I go outside. There's this guy who I work with who I don't really care for, and he's sitting in my parking lot one day. And when I go outside, I'm walking over to High's to buy some beer, and I was like, "What are you doing here?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, I'm picking up Mrs. X, this girl," and I was like, "Oh,
She's
okay."
been everybody's Mrs. X at one time or another.
And I think I made some. I was like, by the time I get back, I don't want you here, or something like that. Like this is kind of how I talk
in
to the
jest,
guy.
sure.
He's afraid of me, is what I'm saying, because I always say stuff like that. So then I come back, and he's obviously on what we call a split from work, where you work a couple hours in the morning, you have a couple
I
hours
hate
off,
that.
and then you come back.
I hate
at
the
night.
idea of that.
Yeah, because he's in his work uniform, and it's about 1:30 on a Saturday or something like that. And I come back from Highs, and I've got a 6-pack of beer. No, I had a 12-pack of beer because they were really cheap Paps. And I was like, "So you dating this girl or what?" And he's like, "Yeah, kind of." And he looks down at the beer and he goes, Oh, you're not working tonight? You got the night off? I was like, no, I got to be there at 4.
Fight. It must have been, it must have been, it must have been a happy time. It must have been, it must have been, it must have been a happy time. Time.